Many of you know about our New Year's tradition of choosing a word for the year. Every January, we are all invited to choose a word for ourselves for the year ahead, a word that we want to bring more of into our lives, something we want to pay attention to and watch out for and invite in. And then we just try to notice that word all year, or practice it, or learn about it, or encourage it, and just see what shows up. There's a list of this year's words so far in the church-wide weekly email if you haven't chosen yours yet and you want a little bit of inspiration. And they are gorgeous words. Words like resilience, resonance, hope, seed, laughter, presence, serenity, growth, grace. I love them. But I think my favorite word of the year of all time was the word yes. Yes. I think it was 2017, and one of our members, Ed McNerney, chose the word yes. And he decided to say yes to everything. Whatever he was asked to do that year, every opportunity, every question that came his way, his answer, as often as humanly possible, was yes. Now, the very next year, as some of you might remember, he chose the word no. So I figured the yes must not have gone that well. But it turns out it wasn't that simple. So a couple years ago, I asked him to tell me about his years of yes and no. And here is what Ed wrote to me. He wrote, "The year of yes was about both acceptance and assent. Yes, in recognizing that some things about myself and my life were just not going to change, or were not actually worth changing, and I should try to put aside the effort and accept things as they are. And yes, in deciding, despite having a reputation for already saying yes to too many things, to take the opportunity to say yes, even to those things that I normally would have said no to. That was the year you asked me if I was willing to try being a worship leader. Here's how you asked. You said, 'I don't know if this is your cup of tea or not, Ed, but would you?' And I replied, 'It is most certainly not my cup of tea, but yes, I'll do it.' It was saying yes to something outside my comfort zone. And being a worship leader still lives outside that comfort zone, though I would add that Ed is still a worship leader, and he's wonderful at it. And I would further add that I did not take advantage of his year of yes. I did not ask him to serve on every church committee we have, which I thought was pretty big of me. Ed continues, there's a bit of both kinds of yes in the last chapter of James Joyce's Ulysses, which both begins and ends with these words. Yes, she said, yes, I will. Yes. The speaker, Molly Bloom, is both recognizing that her life is what it is, with all of its imperfections, and that she is willing to accept Leopold as her husband, and yes, to everything else. The fact that his actual request was for breakfast 70 pages earlier doesn't really matter. Ed confirmed that the next year his word was indeed no, because as he put it in his year of yes, he had experienced how easy it is to spread ourselves too thin. And so he wanted to try something different, the other side, to practice the Zen teaching, when doing the dishes, just do the dishes. But Ed also realized that his year of yes and his year of no were interconnected. He wrote, saying no was a way to focus on when I really did want to say yes. As a friend of mine once said to a high-pressure car salesman, "You're not making me free to say no, so I'm not free to say yes either." I understand this more and more the older I get, and as I get more comfortable with saying no. Saying yes is utterly and intrinsically connected to saying no, because if we don't learn how to say no, how can we really say yes either? An authentic yes. A yes that we truly mean, a yes of the heart, a fully intentional yes. When I was a very new and very young minister serving the congregation in Gardner, Massachusetts, I had to learn how to say no, and it was a very difficult lesson for me. Probably because I was a very new and very young minister, and I wanted to give whatever was asked of me, even if it felt really hard, because at that point, everything that was asked of me felt really hard because I didn't know how to do anything. But I also didn't know how to tell what was a reasonable hard from what was an unreasonable and absurd hard. So I ended up officiating at a wedding on what the couple had told me was a small island. But what it was actually was an extremely slippery, pointy rock in the middle of a lake. Getting there involved a trip in a canoe wearing robe and stole. Most of you already know how I feel about boats. I officiated at another wedding in a blizzard at Walden Pond, even though when we made the plan, I was sure an outside wedding in January was a bad idea. I also ended up on various committees and working groups I wasn't interested in, doing work that I am truly terrible at, like bylaw revisions. And because I couldn't say no, I ended up feeling so full of dread whenever the phone would ring, which was all day, since this was before the days of email. The final straw was when I was asked to participate in the town-wide fair, which is kind of like Groton Fest, but with the addition of carnival rides and games. And to be specific, I was asked to take a 2-hour-long shift at the carnival dunk tank. Yes, yes, yes. As the donkey, obviously. To which I said, yes. Yes. People could throw balls at the target or accidentally at me and try to dunk the new minister. I wanted to be a good sport, but at age 30, I really wasn't that good of a sport. I wasn't a dunk tank kind of person then, though I am definitely a dunk tank kind of person now, and I would do it in a heartbeat. But then I was so miserable. And then I was so wet and cold and embarrassed and bedraggled and miserable. And I knew I had to change something. And I'm not sure who gave me this idea, but I started putting small red stickers everywhere I thought I would see them. I put them on the receivers of my phones in the office and at home. I put them on the cover of my yearly planner and on the wall calendar. I put them on my desk blotter and my office door and my bathroom mirror and the dashboard of the car. And they were there to remind me to just stop before saying yes. The stickers didn't mean no, at least not all of the time. They meant just wait a minute before agreeing to something. Just pause for a second. And I practiced in the bathroom mirror saying things like, Let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you. And I'm not sure if I can do that, but I will let you know. And it took about a year for me to actually learn this lesson, but I learned it. And I felt so much better when I had, that the lesson stuck. Now, interestingly, a small group from the Gardner congregation came to visit us on a Sunday last month. And in the coffee hour line, they asked me if I would consider coming back to preach for them sometime. And I honestly did not have to hesitate for a second before saying a true and joyful yes. So I will be going to Gardner next Sunday to lead worship there for the first time in 24 years. I know. Here's the thing. To say yes with intention is a brave and bold and beautiful thing to do. And those yeses are brave and bold and beautiful no matter how things turn out. Because when we say a heartfelt, a heart-filled yes, we become like the violin in Andrea Gibson's poem, playing a chord that resonates with clarity and strength, so that other violins sound the same note, which, as Andrea Gibson says, is their definition of hope. Knowing that we can sound music in the people around us simply by playing our own strings. Today, our new members have said an important yes. They have said yes to entering into a covenant with this congregation, to use the words we and us when talking about this community instead of the words you and them. They have said yes to belonging, to offering themselves and being accepted, to being changed by this people and to changing us as well. In our theology, covenant is the word we use for this. It just means coming together. Covenant is a promise, a practice, a deeply intentional choice. And because we don't have creeds, we don't have sets of beliefs that we require of one another to hold us together, we are held together instead by our covenants. We are held together by assent, by intentional commitment, by shared hopes about how we want to be together, who we want to be together, what we will ask of one another and how we will answer, our common intentions, which are summed up in the mission statement we use here to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to this world. Or as Julian Jamaica Soto puts it so beautifully, in this community we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean we are lost. We rely on the certainty beneath, the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star, and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. And we know that the way to the world of which we dream is by covenant. It is by the movement forward of one right action and the next. And that one day we'll arrive at home. Like so much of what we do here, pretty much everything we do here, covenant is a practice. It is a verb, as Barbara said, and that is because we are human. and we never do it perfectly, and we are never finished until the day when that world we dream of has become a reality. And so we keep working on it and figuring out how to repair it when things have gotten torn or tattered. We keep having to find our way back to each other when we are lost. Saying yes to our covenant means playing all the roles. The giver and the receiver, the hurting and the joyful, the believer and the doubter, the bringer of the casseroles and the eater of the casseroles. It means being vulnerable, being willing to play our own strings here so that our notes resonate. And the world needs people whose notes resonate so badly. The world needs people who have learned how to say no so that we can say yes with fullness of heart and with joy. As Andrea Gibson puts it so beautifully, this is for the no becoming yes. This is for the possibility that guides us and for the possibilities still wanting to sing and spread their wings inside us. The world needs us right now more than it ever has. So this is for saying yes.